All right, we are now back in session. There was no formal action taken in closed session. Negotiations on the parcels will continue and be brought back to the committee at a future date. And we're going to go out of order for the sake of staff and for ease of the members that are participating remotely, and we'll jump into the educational presentations on the 2024 first quarter financial reports, and then we will go and address the second closed session item at that time. So we're waiting for the administrator and the finance director to return. And yes, we have financials. So we were taking things out of order. Christy, you've presented those to us. Thank you. You want to give a high-level overview? Or Administrator Leonard?
I can start, and I want to start by saying thank you to Christy and her team, and certainly also to Chris Buskirk. And as you said, we do now have financials within your packet. This is our first, we're still getting used to the form, so we may make some changes to the ultimate report, but the reports before you are budget to actual, essentially for the first quarter, so not through today or through the end of April. This is through the end of March. So I don't have any big takeaways, but we'll happily answer any questions you'll see from all the departments. If you look at their total expenditures, we're all in that, I should say the vast majority are within that range of about 20% to 30%, which isn't surprising to me. We're a quarter of the way through the year from the report. Personnel expenses are right in that realm as well. We have a little bit of a lag for wages, but from my perspective, nothing overly jumps out, other than if you really get into the weeds, you'll see that there's an employee benefits area in all of the financials. It is after the salaries and wages line, where you'll see all of the percentages are significantly off, or many of them are off. Like this one is 236% of budget, but if you look at the dollar amount, they're all very small dollar amounts. Christy can explain what that is, but essentially it's we had a mapping issue, but again, it's a very small dollar amount with respect to each of those. Overall, the budgets are pretty consistent with what you might otherwise expect. With all that very interesting intro, Christy, anything you want to reference in any of the documents?
No, and again, I want to thank Chris Buskirk from our office and also our IT department. You saw the budget, and it's called Adaptive. It's a great budgeting tool, but moving it back to the workplace that you actually do your accounting work in was a little difficult, so that's what took the delay. And the reason we had them in 23 is because we imported it from our old system through a EIB or a big fancy spreadsheet. So if you have any questions, we can answer them. Otherwise, that's what it is. In the item that Lance was referencing is employee benefits, which when you break down goes to special pay, and it includes really our wellness credit and unemployment.
Are there any questions for Supervisor Lemmer?
Thank you, and thank you for your efforts, financial team. I think this is a great learning opportunity for me, and I'm still learning, so a couple of questions. I do want to talk about the employee benefits part, and then if you could just explain, I think it's account 41-110, general property taxes, and all of those, they're at 100%. I'm just wondering why and what that means. And then the last thing is, it looks like utilities seem to be on track. That seems awesome, but I feel like my utility bills aren't. So those would be the three things that to talk about just a little bit. And as far as the employee benefits, are they over just because they were under budgeted for? And will that be corrected later? Anyway, so
There's
those are
two
the three
things. First, when we do our property taxes, so you levy a tax for general property taxes, and then we break it into actually general fund, social improvement fund, parks fund, debt fund, maybe CIP, and highway fund. Those are usually all we have for those. What we do then is we actually, you'll see on the financials, we post a receivable at the end of the year for what we're going to be collecting within the next 60 days or the next year. So what we do is we fully make the entry at the beginning of the year saying this is what the property taxes that will be collected are for the year. And at the end of the year, we make an adjustment to the tax certificate or tax deed account. And then we calculate what the actual total property taxes collected are. And we do that at the end of the year. And it's usually within 99%. So on a grand scale, it's going to be correct. Even if you take that difference, you're still going to take that as a adjustment at the end of the year. The benefits, we never, in our old system, we had our benefits being like the health insurance, dental, life, unemployment. And we always, the way that we did it in the legacy system is we did a net premium contribution from the employer for wellness. And the more appropriate way to track how much that wellness credit is worth is using that employer expense. So if you meet certain guidelines, you get a wellness credit on your health insurance premium. And we never tracked it as a separate category in the old legacy system. We do now, but since it is new, when we pulled it through adaptive, we just mapped it to the wrong. We just mapped it under probably benefits, not employee, or under employee benefits, not contributions. And the other one is unemployment, which is 0.01% of total payroll. So that's where those two items are showing up and look a little funny.
I have a question,
But
Christie.
There's a last, utilities, oh, that's why we.
Is there an opportunity for us to get a cumulative for the county budget in its entirety, a summary page? Because what we've got now is the departments.
Yep. Yeah, actually, what we did to even get to these was we used our summary report we used out of adaptive. So that's easier to run than breaking out by department. Yep, we can do that.
And as for utilities, electricity was an outlier for us as a WPS customer because you saw other providers have fee increases in the 8 to 12% range. A lot of that is built into them repaying their capital infrastructure they've been doing with battery projects, other green energy projects, and just projects in general. But for WPS, we had a 1.9%, if memory serves, rate reduction for this year. So we'll see what happens moving forward with them. When it comes to water, the cost for the water, we've already done the projections for based on what we saw in the increase last year. So that was the plan I had referenced previously in terms of how to make up the difference, since we didn't allocate, I didn't have the information at the time of budget development for the increase. Nevertheless, we've got it covered within that plan. The issue with seeing water bills come across is that our properties are stretched across different locations in the city and the district. You get your bills on a quarterly basis, and so there's a lag in terms of when that shows up. So, like when we saw the July increase last year, I didn't see that on a bill until November. So that will show up. And then for gas, we had a very warm winter, so that's helped at the end of last year and the beginning of this. Similarly, the spot price on the markets for gas was hovering in the $1.65 to $1.85 range for most of the year. That has changed in the last month. It's now up $1. So we were benefiting from low spot prices on the market. The basis, which is the difference between the market price and the local sale price, and then transport costs. I'm working on how to dial those in a bit better, so you get a better projection in terms of allocated budget versus use and volume. So I've got those numbers and I'm working on that now. But we also have enrolled all of our nominations, if you will, into a program called Alpha 365 with Constellation. And what that does is it looks ahead and locks in volume at certain prices. and it's doing that every single day based on the spot price fluctuation. And so what it does is it helps mitigate the increases in price, and it allows you to capture all of the drops. And so there's also a limitation in there that you never pay, I'm not going to remember the exact percentage, but it's something like 3% over the market average over a period of time. So you have limitations in terms of being a part of that program and how much your price can fluctuate. The other thing about forward contracting is typically a 12-month strip. Those prices are in the $4 range right now. So we're paying spot prices $2.63, I think, right now, plus your basis and transport. That's still going to be lower today than looking at a 12-month strip. I was looking at doing that last month, but it was right around when the market did its May close, so the timing was off. But I'm getting weekly updates on our Alpha 365 volume locks and also dialing in the basis and transport costs so that I can get a better sense of looking ahead with our history of volume to better project what that cost will be, and also to get a better sense of where we want to be price-wise, so that if we get up to that point in the market or the forward strips, then I can lock in a year forward strip and be at a point where we have stability with the budget, and then not worry about it until the following year. So there's different strategies in play there, but that's certainly helped between the warm winter and having our purchasing into that program.
Supervisor Marshall.
I had a question on the sheriff's department. There was a capital outlay of $181,000, but very little budget. And I thought most of our capital had been ARPA related.
Is that rolling stock?
Sorry, page 47.
That's the $1,000 on capital outlay? Oh, yeah, let's take a look at that one. I'll just look it up in trial balance. I'll just recreate the balance. Keep going. Yeah. Yep, we'll do.
Please use microphones when you're speaking. So
I'm rerunning the trial balance, and I'll look that one up. That is a big variance, and I will, if I can't get it right off the bat, I will email it to everybody in the group so you can have a copy of it.
And Mr. Chair, if I can offer, I think that's a great segue into, I know this committee was anxiously awaiting the ability to look at budget to actuals, as were department heads. So this ability to dive in, and if you do have an area that, hey, what does this mean? Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll look into it. It might take us a little bit of time, but to close out, if there aren't any more questions, thank you to Christy and her team, and also thank you to Christy for mentioning IT, who I neglected. This was not a small lift, and I know Jerry Klein has been very forceful as necessary with our vendor, our consultant, as we worked through this, but thankfully it is to a point now where at least I think we can get you this information. But if you do have questions, don't hesitate at all to reach out. The big feature, again, I think to Supervisor Lemmer's earlier question about tax revenue, you'll see throughout the document, and we've talked about this before, it will be more valuable as we move through the year, but some of our departments get their bills early or get their revenues, early in the year. Some get them later. The same is true for bills. We contract for services, and sometimes the lag on us receiving those bills and paying those bills is significant. So next quarter, of course, I hope to be able to stand here and have a similar percentage story as what you have, where we have all departments kind of in that, if we get to the end of the second quarter and it's between 40 and 60%, that's great for all of them. But if you do have questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Any other questions? I do want to thank Christy and company and IT and others for their effort. It's been a long time in coming, and I think it's informative for the board. So is the intent then to share the budgets with the standing committees on a quarterly basis for those departments under their purview?
It is. Yep, we were planning to do that. That was the one thing I neglected, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else under the quarterly financial reports? Supervisors Poole or Reynolds, any questions?
No questions.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to just while we have you here, do we have any items for future discussion? I think we carried that, or we talked about that during the work plan discussion. Anything else that you would like to see us, we'll be talking about the budget 101 and other things. If not, we'll go back to the agenda. Chair Gibb.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent E, for the purpose of conducting specific public business whenever competitive and bargaining reasons require a closed session, to wit, policy governance, to administration and the facility staff relative to the Regional Forensic Science Center bidding process.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Second by Supervisor Lemmer. I'm sorry. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye when their name is called. Good catch. Where are we going?
Robinson.
Aye.
Marshall. Gibbs. Hart. Lemmer. Poole.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Thank you.
That carries unanimously. All right.
I will email you, it is jail assessment, just like Chris said. So I've got 4 items. I'll email them to you. Okay. The only issue I had is that it's running the sheriff's department hierarchy, so once I put that